I'd like you to think for a moment of one thing in your life where you could give thanks to your mom. Just take a moment, think about one thing that you could say thanks to your mom. And then together I'm going to ask you to say, thank you, Mom. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Mom. Moms are ones who we want to honor today. And I would encourage you to, when you go home later on, share with some of your family or friends that thing that you were thinking about, how your mom gave you not only life, but probably some teaching, maybe some rules, some other things in your life that have helped guide you along the way. And myself, growing up, I always felt really closest to my mom. Growing up in kind of a father knows best house, if you know what I'm talking about. Mom was the one, though, who was always there and who provided a lot of the guidance, the support. Mom was the one who would fix my knees when I would fall on my bike and get them skun up, and I did that a lot. Mom was the one who was always taking care of me, and so I have a really special place in my heart and my memories for my mom. But I think all too often we think about that, boy, you know, especially guys, oftentimes think a mom's life is pretty easy. How many guys think that? And I came across this Skit Guys video. I love the Skit Guys. Sometimes I just sit and I watch them on the computer just for myself. But I came across this Skit Guys video where one of the guys dreams about having this easy life of being a mom. Let's take a look. You know, it's funny, but it's all too true, I think. And I wonder, especially if the guys in this room ever really thought about what it takes to be a mom. And it's probably a whole lot more than you ever would have imagined. A kid negotiator and sometimes referee. A beautician. A supporter / motivator. And I hear this from moms all the time, going to school events, going to sport events, running from here to there, just to be there, to be supportive to their kids. A schedule coordinator, oftentimes for the whole family. A multitasker. I think about my own mom, how I would see her cooking and like sewing and taking care of us kids all at the same time. Nowadays, a taxi driver or a carpool coordinator, an educator, someone who we look to raise the children and guide them and teach them, a chef, a nurse, a custodian, and one that I particularly like, a protector. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone so fierce as a mama bear, if you know what I mean. You mess with my kids, you're going to mess with me. This kind of attitude, this kind of multi-task personality, to be able to keep all those balls in the air, doing everything that it takes to raise children. Everyone in this room had a mother. They certainly were not all perfect, but I believe that there was a caring, a loving, a concern, a desire to help. As I was thinking about moms, I started thinking about Jesus' mother, Mary, and how crucial it was in her life to develop this sense of trust. First of all, she had to trust God right at the beginning. She was probably 12, 13 years old when the angel came and said, by the way, Mary, you're going to have a child. And she said, I'm going to what? But you're going to have a child, and not only are you going to have a child, but this child is going to become the Messiah, the Savior. And can you imagine the trust that it took for Mary to go forward with that and to believe that God could make that true? And then there was the trust that she had to place in Joseph, this older man who was her earthly husband, that somehow he would believe in her and not think that she was crazy, and that he would stay with her and not set her out on the street. And then there was this trust that Mary, the mom, had to develop in her own son. Her own son. Can you imagine what it must have been like being a mom of the Son of God? I mean, how much patience would that take when Jesus would say something and it was the opposite of what you were thinking, and you were still supposed to believe it? You were supposed to believe that he was right and maybe you were wrong as a parent. And when they went to Jerusalem and Jesus hung out at the temple, and then mom and dad took off, they were going home and Jesus wasn't there, and they're wondering, and they come back to Jerusalem and they find him in the temple, and they say, what in the world are you doing here? You were supposed to be with us. And Jesus, being kind of a smart little kid, says, don't you know I'm supposed to be about my Father's business? I don't know how that would have played in some people's homes. It had to be really challenging for Mary to be the mother of Jesus. And yet, as he grew up, and the Bible tells us that he honored and obeyed his parents, grew into becoming a young man, Mary saw in him something very special. We know that Mary identified Jesus as the Messiah, as the Savior. The promise had come true. And at the foot of the cross, who was there as Jesus was hanging and dying on the cross? His mom was there to be with him until the end. Mom was there. I think it's just a powerful testimony to this trust that Mary had. And one of the great stories about trust, once Jesus began ministry, is recorded in the Gospel of John, chapter 2. Let's take a look at that. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. And Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. And when the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied, "For my hour has not yet come." But his mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." And Mary walks away. There is a little bit more to the story. Yes, Jesus turns the water into wine, and the celebration goes on. And it's one of the first recorded miracles that Jesus does. But the part of the story that really strikes me is that this family had a problem. They were having a feast, a celebration for a marriage, and they ran out of wine. Mary recognizes the problem, and what does she do? She brings it to her son, Jesus. She doesn't argue with him. She doesn't try and manipulate. She doesn't do any of that. She takes the problem and she brings it to him and leaves it at his feet and walks away. This model is a model for you and I. It's a model for moms everywhere who struggle with issues in your own family. You have a problem, you have an issue in your life, bring it to Jesus. Put your trust in him that he will handle it. He will take care of it. You don't have to tell him how to fix the problem. I know sometimes I like to do that in my prayers. Dear Lord, I've got this issue going on, and by the way, if you would only do X, Y, and Z, everything would work out great. Mary didn't do that. She recognized the problem, she brought it to Jesus, and trusted that he would take care of it. I think that that's really what we all are intended to do. And then Mary had this ability to show unconditional love. When other people were criticizing Jesus as he was starting out his ministry, as even family members were saying, Jesus, you are crazy. Jesus' brothers and sisters, when he first started his ministry and was in the synagogue, and he is claiming to be the Son of God, and his own family is saying, Jesus, you're crazy. And yet, Mary stood steadfast in her love toward him. And she became a follower. We know that as he went and taught, Mary would be there all the way to the cross, and beyond the cross to the resurrection. This kind of unconditional love is something that is absolutely crucial to have in parents. And I think it's very evident oftentimes in moms. Because it oftentimes is the moms who get to see the problems, to get to see the failures, to get to see the mistakes that children make in their lives. And yet, most moms stand firm with their children. We are called, as followers of Jesus, to demonstrate unconditional love. We are called to trust in God to deal with the issues in our lives. And then I think the most important thing that we can learn from Mary is something that, as I was thinking about this and I was trying to figure out what to call it, I think we are called, and moms are called, and dads are called, and all who care for children particularly, we are called to be faith modelers and faith injectors. Faith modelers, faith injectors. We are called to model out what it is like to be a follower of Jesus Christ. And how do you do that? You read the Bible, you see how Jesus lived, and you seek to live that out. You ask God for help in doing so, but you seek to live that out, to show love and caring and compassion, to teach honesty and trust and responsibility. This is the job of parents, to model out what it is to live a life of faith, the kind of life that Jesus would want us to live. And then the other component of that is to seek to inject that into your children. It's interesting, over the years, sometimes I have seen strong Christians. They spend all their time in church, and which isn't altogether a bad thing, but sometimes I've seen them actually neglect their own family because of the time they spend doing ministry. And we are called, if you have children, your first responsibility is to those children, to help to inject faith into them so that as they grow up, they might be able to live a life as a follower of Jesus Christ. So to model it out, but also to seek to embed that in your child. One of the things that I have loved over the years is when I see parents taking their son or daughter to like Christian concerts. We have some coming up this summer. Joyful Noise is one of them. Sunshine Festival is another one. But bringing your children to that kind of an environment where they're going to hear music and songs and heavy-duty worship, hours on end, praising God and being surrounded by thousands of people and young people who are on that journey together. That's one of the ways that I see people injecting faith into their kids. I loved it last week when we saw some of our children helping out with the blessing of the bikes. And some parents right there with their kids kind of guiding them around so that they could play a role in that event. It's a lot easier just to say, kids, go away. Go away, I'm busy being a Christian, go away. We are called to model out the faith and to inject the faith into our children. I think if we do those things, then one day our kids might come forward and say, "Thanks, Mom," or "Thanks, Dad." And who knows, maybe one day they will come forward with this incredible joy on their face and buy you that brand new vacuum cleaner, and it'll be name brand.